Tithing is only specifically mentioned in the Brit Hadashah 5 times in 5 different places. And actually, one of the places really doesn't count as much because it's a parallel, so it's just repeating it in one gospel and then in another. And so we'll begin in Matthew 23. Here's an endorsement of tithing. Not just tithing, but for those of you that wonder, how far do we need to take it? He's taking it even to the leaves of the small herbs. That's how much he's taking this tithing down to. He said these needed to be done. And so we could easily start to stretch out and try to find a way to be a minimalist and figure out what's the least you have to do. But here he's saying, look, you tithe even on the mint leaves and the anise and the cumin. These are herbs. He says, you even tithe on that. He said, that's good. It's good that you did these things. However, as a hypocrite, you neglected the weightier things. He's also warning us that once we start tithing, that we don't just do that for show. We don't just do that to be seen of men, which is a big part of chapter 23, earlier in the chapter, that they were doing things to be seen of men, but yet that we're doing these things because it's obedience and appreciating blessings and all of the things we taught in the first 3 parts of this thing. What law are we talking about here that changes? Okay, the law isn't changing like being done away with here. The shifting is that it's an ordinance. By the way, some books might say Torah in the translation. The Greek simply means the change of an ordinance, of an understanding of how an ordinance is applied. And what's being talked about here is the tithing. And so now that you have a different priesthood, the tithe is going to go to that priesthood. This Yeshua has become a guarantor of a better covenant. Better why? Because he is not like these weak men. That's what we're going to read again in verse 28. The weakness is in the people implementing that which is perfect. The law was not the problem. The covenant was not the problem. The people that were standing in the breach were the problem. Think of it this way, like, I don't know why this just came to me, but you know what? If you have a sports team, can't you bring in a star player and that player can make the team better? Didn't change the rules, but elevated everyone because he was better. That one player was better. And then if that player is a really good player, instead of just being exalting himself, he can elevate everybody else around him to be better. The sport didn't change. The rules of the game didn't change. There was the one person coming in that made it better. Here, the same thing. Yeshua makes it better. What does this have to do with tithing? Well, it has to do with the idea in the beginning of the chapter that this new priesthood, which really isn't new, it's actually older than the other one, absolutely is worthy and qualified to receive tithes. Because the people out there are making a very strong argument, well, without the Levites and the priests, we don't have to tithe anymore. Well, tithing predates Levi and priests of that order. The priests get the tithe, whether it's Melchizedekian or Levitical. We don't have Levitical right now. Guess who gets the tithe? The Melchizedek one. Notice what he says here. He says, look, if to others I'm not an emissary, I certainly am to you. You are the work that the Master has given me to do. That's why I tell people all the time, your tithe should go to the ministry that is feeding you, the ministry you call for counsel, the ministry that's doing all of these things, not just somebody you like their teaching one day. It's not just to be spread out amongst every teacher you happen to like to whatever degree. You can give them all the offerings you want. That's not where your tithe goes. Your tithe is to support the guy who fits into the category of, are you not my work in the Master? You can't grow weary. You can't stop short. You can't give in, give up, or slow down. Be on your guard. Be aware all the time. Whatever you're sowing, you're going to reap. Whether you reap it now or later, Elohim will not be mocked. You will reap. Do you believe that or not? That's the problem. If you don't believe it, you can grow weary and you can slack. You can become complacent. You can ease off the pedal, so to speak, and slow down. How many parables do we have, like the talents, etc., where the person did a lot with it, or they did a little with it, or they did nothing with it? You're saying, Abba's given you all of these gifts and talents, the ability to be compassionate and loving and merciful, etc., and then you want everybody to treat you that way, but are you doing it? See, we like to think about the idea of, well, you sow your $1,000 seed, you get all this money back. Well, maybe you don't need money. Maybe you need to be treated nicer or to be cared about. Maybe you don't do that to others. Maybe if you go and sow more of that, you'll get more of that. If any or all of this or any part of this freaks you out, panics you, or causes you any kind of stress, it's exposing one of two things. It's either exposing an income problem that you can address. In other words, you've just never pushed yourself in that area to get the income that would be necessary to take care of yourself, family, and everything else that you have needs for. It also may be exposing an emunah problem, a faith, a trust issue. And so this is good. If problems are exposed, they can be dealt with. If they're not exposed, you won't ever deal with them.